to Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and this sadly is the second time I'm filming this video because, again, it did this. I'm still not understanding why it does this every so often, where I'll film and I'll be talking, and then when I'm done filming and I stop it, it's just a white screen, and the little camera symbol is black, is like scratched out, like X'd out or whatever, like it didn't film, and I don't understand how it does that. So I'm refilming. I'm not a tech person. Like, I know enough, obviously, to, be on the computer and do this kind of thing, but I have to ask people. And my parents aren't tech people either, so the people I have to ask are if it's a friend that's, or my cousins, and they're far away. So it's very frustrating. So I'm going to try again. Hopefully I won't have to do it for a third time, although they say a third time's the charm. So let's update you guys. And I actually, when I stopped filming, I realized that I had forgot that I mentioned that I want to talk about some TV watching updates, and I totally forgot to mention that anyway. So, I'm first going to talk about the books I'm currently reading, and then I did haul some books because I had a friend who came in town for a visit, and of course we went book shopping, and I wanted to do a video with her, but then we never got around to it. So, and she was only staying for one night. We wanted to get pool time in, and then we wanted to go book shopping. And then, I talked about her. I was going to take her out to eat. And so it just never worked out. But maybe next time. Like, I'm hoping to make this a tradition that she comes during the summer to visit. But anyway. So this week, this is what I've read so far. So I did. Oh, don't you dare! I don't know if that's my screen started going black. So I did return. I returned to one of the books I'm in the middle of, where I'm almost done with it. I have 2 more chapters to go, and then a little afterward. This is The Guns of August by Barbara Tuchman. This is about the outbreak of World War I, how World War I started. I want to learn about World War I because, of course, I've said this before, people talk. There's so many books on World War II, and I understand why. It's very important. A lot of deaths happen, a lot of tragedy. But this is just as big as that. And it's a war people don't talk about. So I've been wanting to read more books on that. And I'm almost done with this. Let's see what I can tell you. I remember what I've learned so far. So I know Woodrow Wilson decided he wanted to be neutral and didn't want to get involved with the war right away. And of course, like with World War II, Germany started it because the Kaiser felt like he was neglected and taken for granted. And they do eventually form an alliance with Britain at one point, and these generals can be very arrogant, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with my plan or my strategy. It's you that's the problem. Even like whenever they're losing, if they potentially lose, they're not gonna revise their strategy. They're like, my strategy is awesome, so I'm not the one with the problem. But yeah, and again, there's some stuff that, because I don't read a lot of military history, and I don't understand all this stuff, so there are times when I'm confused, and I don't always know everything that they're talking about. I don't always understand it. But I understand some things. But anyway, so there's 22 chapters, and I'm on chapter 21, so I'm almost done. But the chapters are a bit long, so there's that. And then I'm also reading Animal Dreams by Barbara Kingsolver, where in this one she focuses more on Native American lore, Native American cultures. And so we have our main character, Cosima. She calls herself Cody. In the present day, she's living in Tucson, and she returns to her hometown of Grace, and her sister is gone. Her sister Hallie is going to save the world and help people in foreign parts. And her dad, she finds out that he has Alzheimer's, so she goes home to take care of him. But she's not going to stay long, and she ends up, her friend gets her a job as a teacher, as a biology teacher. And she said, while she's there, she finds out there's something wrong with the water in the community and gets involved with helping fix the water because a lot of the life in there is dying, with the exception of the fish. And so she wants to get them talking to the government. Of course, the men in the community aren't doing anything about it. They're being lazy about it. They're not being very active. So the women of this community are getting involved. They're trying to figure out ways to fix and raise money to preserve and fix their water, because they need their water. And she's also reconnecting with an old boyfriend named Lloyd, who is an Apache Native American, and when they dated in high school, he got her pregnant, but she never told him about it, and she just left. And so she comes back and reconnects with him, and he's grown, he's more mature, and so they decide to get back, try dating as adults. So she's trying to deal with the environment, helping the environment of the community of Grace, but also, she's reconnecting with this guy, and she's determined to only stay there for a year and to leave because she feels like she doesn't belong there. It feels like she's judged by the community. Feels like she's never belonged in that community, and she's not brave like her sister Hallie. And she doesn't have the best. Her and Hallie don't have the best relationship with her dad, Doc Homer. But he's still her dad, and she wants to help him. And I also really, it's funny because, so I'm a queer Filipino, and I've been reading a lot of, as you guys know, I've been reading a lot of books on the Philippines, fiction and nonfiction, and they did cockfighting, and so did, and also I found in Argentina they did cockfighting too. In Buenos Aires, in Evita, the real Evita, Eva Peron, she was in a small community that did that. That was the only thing to do. And so, and actually, Lloyd does that. He's just cockfighting. So in our main character, in Cody, who's kind of an animal lover, does not like that idea. She doesn't like it, and he does. And he was also thinking about it, but he ends up giving it up for her. So it was really kind of cool, and I love this cover. I really like this cover. I never taken the time to actually look at it, but I really like it. But I'm enjoying this so far. I'm enjoying reading about the main character, and we also get a little bit of her dad's perspective as well. So I thought that was kind of cool and kind of interesting to see his point of view, even if it's brief, in only small sections of the book, because we're mostly with Cody Cosima. So I'm enjoying this. Also, I am reading. Finally got back to the Odyssey, the Robert Fagles translation, and I read the Circe chapter, which is really funny. In Nolan's movie, it's horrifying. You can't look away. I mean, some people have to look away. You see the terror in these men's faces, and them having to. Her magic is forcing them to eat food. This food that she gives them that looks really kind of slimy and gross, that they can't stop eating, and they're terrified. You can see them slowly starting to, they're panicking. They're like, why can't we stop? And she's just kind of smug and mocking them, because you find out the reason why she did it is because, this is men are pigs, and this is your true form. And she literally molds their faces and reshapes them. And I always think about how transformation, in movies, kids movies, all of a sudden someone transforms, and you think, and if you really think about it as an adult, you realize that that's probably going to be really painful and horrifying when your body slowly changes shape. And So this really showed it in the movie adaptation by Nolan. While in the book, it's just she taps them with a wand and they change. Like, they just say that that's what she did. They don't really describe it. So I was, I think that's kind of funny. And then I'm at the part where when Odysseus goes to rescue his men, she sends him on him, if he wants to get back home, she sends him on a mission to go to the land of the dead and talk to the prophet Terses, and I don't remember how to pronounce his name. So where I'm reading the chapter where he goes to the land of the dead, talks to the prophet, and he talks to, other people like Achilles and his mother, and it's just, so it's kind of heartbreaking though to see these people that died that are in the land of the dead, and and now the movie does not touch on his mother or Achilles. We don't see them, but we do see Agamemnon and the consequences, of what happened. He left and his wife Clytemnestra hooking up with some other guy, and now she decides to kill him, and that's why he died. He got betrayed by his wife, and he's really pissed. Which I guess you can't blame him, but at the same time, I feel mixed feelings about that. Very much. But yeah, I'm slowly making my way through, and I'm taking a class on it. The class will be starting in September. Sadly, it's only 4 sessions again, just like that mythology class. But anyway, so it's coming up. The first class is September 5th, so I think that would be considered the first week of September. And I'm trying to read as much as I can before that class. But I don't know if it will happen. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. It's not going to hinder me or anything if I don't, finish it before that class. But anyway, so now let's show what I recently purchased. So I went. Well, first, before Larissa, before Larissa came, I did get a book a few days before from the little library across the elementary school. That little library has a mix of kids' books, because it's still an elementary school, but it also has some adult books, so it has books for the parents. And unfortunately, I want to help out, but I don't have YA books or kids books. I mean, we do have kids books, but my mom's not ready to, isn't getting rid of them yet because my sister's kids are still young. And she might want to save some of them anyway. But anyway, but I do have some more adult books that I can put in there. Hopefully not inappropriate, but just classics and, some books I think, like fun, fluffy adult books. But anyway, I did see this in there, I Am Pilgrim by Terry Hayes, and I kept seeing it at the Outpost Bookshop, and so I saw it there. I was like, let me get it in here. That way I'm not spending money, but I'm going to try it. So it's not too much of a risk. So, and this is a thriller, which normally is not my thing, but some thrillers I can get into, which, once I read it, I will probably end up getting rid of it anyway, because once I'm one of those thriller readers, I'm one of those readers that if you read and know how it's going to turn out in a mystery, then I'm probably, or a thriller, I should say, because I'll reread people like Kate Morton, but, then once I know, I'm not going to read it again. Okay, so I'm going to read the back. An anonymous young woman murdered in a rundown hotel. All identifying characteristics dissolved by acid. A father publicly beheaded in the blistering heat of Saudi Arabia in the public square. A notorious Syrian biotech expert found eyelashes in a Damascus junkyard. Found eyeless. Oh, okay, let me read it again. A notorious Syrian biotech expert found eyeless in the Damascus junkyard. Smoldering human remains on a remote mountainside in Afghanistan. A flawless plot to commit an appalling crime against humanity. One path links them all, and only one can make the journey. So it sounds kind of really exciting, and, it's also in a part of the world that I don't read a lot of books from. But anyway, so I'm excited to read this at the moment anyway. Okay, and then I got, so I feel really bad because this is not the book. Like, I had Larissa, I presented her like 3 books and I had her choose one. And she said, there was one that she said was seemed more like a mine kind of book, but then I was hesitant when I went to the register and I let her go first so I could browse again just to double check. And I grabbed one of the books. I ended up picking one of the other books and I just felt bad. So I tried to explain to her how it is, how I can't let other people pick things for me because then all of a sudden I'll be like, I don't know about the one you picked. And now with this one, it did say there was some romance in there, and when it has romance where it says it's a part of the plot on the cover, that I'm a little hesitant because it's like, does it take over the plot? I mean, I guess I could probably still have enjoyed it, but I ended up not getting it. And if there's romance in the story, that's fine. I'm not like against romance completely, but sometimes I feel like there's a trend of romance dominating the story. That's why I'm not drawn to romantasy, because I don't want to read where it's only focused on, the romance and the sexual relationship and all that. So, not the big conflict. So I found this was one of the other ones I picked. Slow Gods by Claire North, which I've heard that author Claire North before. I don't know what else she's written, but it sort of has a back description. Brilliantly imagined and fiercely intelligent, Slow Gods is the incredible space opera debut from Claire North, winner of the World Fantasy Award and John W. Carpenter Campbell Memorial Award, and one of the most original voices in speculative fiction. So it's more like blurbs, but this is the close to a summary I got. My name is Makwana Na Vans, and I am a very poor copy of myself. Out there in deep space in the pilot's chair, I died. And when I was reborn as something not quite human, I vowed to become the scourge of the world that had wronged me. So that's the closest to a summary we get. But I'm slowly trying to get into sci-fi books. Although it said that it's speculative fiction. So, but speculative feels like science fiction to me at times. I mean, not always, because I wouldn't call some people refer to, well, I guess it is science fiction. The what is that famous book with the women and they become breeding stock instead of free women, and I cannot remember what it is. The Testament is its sequel. I cannot remember what the first book is called, but that's considered speculative apparently. So, and I don't know if I'm concerned with that sci-fi or not. And then we have the 3 books I got from. We went to the used bookstore yesterday before she left. So this is an author I've read 1 book by her before, and I did like it. I haven't read her other famous one, but this is Lauren Groff's The Monsters of Templeton. So the book of hers I read was The Matrix, and then one of her most famous books is Fates and Furies. I haven't read it yet. I did see it there, but it was hardback, so I'm trying to stick to paperback. And I've seen it at the library as well. I thought about getting it there, just borrowing it. But anyway, I really like this cover. It kind of makes me think of the Night Circus with the silhouettes and everything. So, in the wake of a wildly disastrous affair with her married archaeology professor, Willie Upton arrives on the doorstep of her ancestral home in Storybook Templeton, New York, looking to hide in the one place in which she swore she'd never come back. As soon as she arrives, a prehistoric monster surfaces in Lake Glimmerglass, changing the very fabric of the town. What's more, Willie's hippie-turned-born-again Baptist mother, V, tells her a secret she's been hiding for nearly 30 years, that Willie's father wasn't the random man from a free love commune that V had led her to imagine. But someone else entirely, someone from this very town. As Willie puts her archaeological skills to work digging for the truth about her lineage, she discovers that the secrets of her family run deep. When dark, mysterious mysteries come to light, and the shocking truth about more than one monster is revealed. So this sounded really cool. Ooh, is there pictures in here? I think I just saw a picture. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. It looks good. And then, so we have an author that there's been controversy about this author. Not everyone liked this author. And I always feel guilty getting books if I do come across a book by the author. You know, it sounds interesting until I realize the author is a horrible person, and well, maybe I shouldn't get it because then I have to deal with the guilty conscience. But anyway, but then to be fair to myself, this is a used purchase. I mean, I would have only spent $4 if I had just got this book. So, and that is Pathfinder by Orson Scott Card. He wrote Ender's Game, and I don't even remember. I just know that there's something about him, some controversy about him. But just reading the back description, it sounded really cool. So, Rig is a well-trained at keeping secrets. Only his father knows the truth about Rig's strange talent for seeing the paths of the people's past. But when his father dies, Rig is stunned to learn just how many secrets father had kept from him. Secrets about Rig's own past, his identity, and his destiny. And when Rig discovers that he has the power not only to see the past, but also to change it, his future suddenly becomes anything but certain. Rig's birthright sets him on a path that leaves him caught between two factions, one that wants him crowned and one that wants him dead. He will be forced to question everything he thinks he knows, choose who to trust, and push the limits of his talent, or forfeit control of his own destiny. So, and the second one is called Ruins. So, but I'll see what happens. See if I enjoy it. This premise, because the premise sounds really good. And don't worry, I won't spend money on this horrible human being if he is a horrible human being. I just am getting used copies of it. So, okay, and the last one I want to show you is an author that I've tried one of their books via the library, but it's super long, and I didn't want to have to keep renewing because it just makes me anxious when I have to keep renewing it. And then I have books that I've already bought that I haven't read because I'm like, oh, let me finish the library book first because I have to return it. And then I haven't read the other book. I did have a copy, but then I was like, oh, I don't know, and if I'm gonna ever read it, so I put it in the pile of books that I'm gonna donate, and I don't know if it's gone yet. It might be gone. It might have been in the pile of books that I donated before my cousin came to stay. But the author is David Mitchell, and the books are Cloud Atlas is the first one, is one of them, and then Bone Clocks is the one I got from the library. And this book is called The Thousand Autumns of Jacob D. Zoet. Cloud Atlas, and the problem is that I felt very, like, influenced a little bit by BookTube, and even there was a little bit of my parents' influence because they watched the movie, and they did like the movie, but they felt like the book might have been confusing. And it's very frustrating because on the one hand, nothing's wrong having a little influence because these people can potentially know your taste, and you trust their judgment. And it's like, do you want to waste time with a book, even if you're just borrowing it from the library and not spending money at the same? You're still using a book is still using your time. So it's, you don't want to be influenced too much, but at the same time, you want BookTube to help you save time from wasting it or wasting your money. And so I feel like it's a fine line to walk. There's a bit of a balance you have to keep where, maybe you should take a risk and try something because you might actually really enjoy it, even if at first it seems like it's not your kind of thing. But then you also want to consider, if I read it, am I going to be wasting my time? like, and wasting my money. But anyway, so, but this one, you know, like with the Orson Scott Card book, yes, the author might have done something horrible, but if I just bought that book, I would have only spent $4 on it. And it's the same thing with, you know, this. If I just bought this one, it would only be $4 as an individual book. And unfortunately, this is another one of these books where I didn't really give a description. Well, I mean, although it seems to give one here in the inside of the book, so not on the back. On the back, it's full of blurbs, which I appreciate that authors are. Well, if we're gonna have the back taken up by blurbs, well then we'll put the summary on the inside. So imagine an empire that has shut out the world for a century and a half. No one can leave. Foreigners are excluded, their religions banned, and their ideas deeply mistrusted. Yet a narrow window out onto this nation fortress still exists, an artificial walled island connected to the mainland port and manned by a handful of European traders. And locked as the land gate may be, it cannot prevent the meeting of minds or hearts. The nation was Japan, the port was Nagasaki, and the island was Dejima, where David Mitchell's panoramic novel transport us into 1799 for one Dutch clerk, Jacob de Zoet. A dark adventure of duplicity, love, guilt, faith, and murder is about to begin. All the while, unbeknownst to him, his feuding compatriots, the axis of the global power is turning. So it seems like it sort of has a like fantastical element, but it's based on the real world a little bit, you know, real world history. Okay, so that's all my books so far. So as far as non-book related, I did start watching Netflix's The Haunting of Hill House. Not the original movies based on Shirley Jackson's book, but that TV series that they decided to make an anthology series. So they have, the first one is inspired by The Haunting of Hill House, and then book 2 is Bly Manor. I don't know if that's based on an actual book. I'm kind of curious if I don't know when Bly Manor came out. If it's been a few years, and I think we'd safely say they're probably not going to continue. I mean, granted, it might take a long time to film these kinds of shows. I don't know, but I'll have to see when it happens, what year Bly Manor came out. But anyway, so, I'm really enjoying it. I think it was really cool. And I just had a jump scare last night on the episode because I was all, you know, talking about the characters, the psychology of the characters, and then all of a sudden a ghost appears in the car and screams at them, and that just made me jump, and I was like covering my ears because the scream was so loud. But so in the story, so we know that in the original Shirley Jackson novel, this professor of psychology gets groups of these different people together and invites them to do he claims it's a sleep study, and he has them stay at this notoriously haunted house called Hill House. And it turns out we don't know if it's actually haunted or it's just in the mind of one particular character. And then, so they made a lot of movie adaptations of it. And the one at the end of the 90s into the 2000s with Liam Neeson as the professor, and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and what is that guy? I forget that comedian's name. Owen Wilson is in it. And a lot of people don't like that one. They prefer the other adaptations. It's much older and black and white. But this one is is inspired by The Haunting of Hill House, so it does not follow the formula of the story in the book, because we meet the Crane family, and they were this family of husband and wife team, and their 4 kids. And they were staying in the house because the dad decided he wants to flip. I guess he's in real estate, and he decides he wants to flip it. But the problem is there's a lot of weird, it's a really old house, and there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in the house. And so we go back and forth between their time in the house and now they're adults living with the trauma of the events of when they were in the house. And one of the oldest brother, Steve, is writing a book about it. He is one of those people that's very logical and rational. Like, he thinks there's mental illness in the family because of it. He's writing a book about it. He's been very successful, and the rest of his siblings, particularly his sister Shirley, is a little resentful of that. She is a doctor, runs a funeral home, and is married with her own kids. And then there's Theodora, who she runs a funeral parlor. Shirley does, and then I think Theodora is the one who becomes a therapist or something. And you find out that she was a sensitive like their mom, so whenever she touched things, she could see visions and such. And then you have the two younger ones that are, I think they're twins, Nell and Luke. And in the present day, like you have, Shirley is very controlling and just like everything has to be her way, while Theo is very emotionally distant with people and just jumps around and flirts with, goes on these hookups, doesn't really commit to anyone, or she isn't very close to people, but she does help kids deal with their traumas. And then you have Luke, and Nell is probably the one who has the good life, the happy life, but she's also traumatized too. And she keeps having this sleep paralysis, and then she's going to therapy, and he helps her out, but it turns out the therapist ended up kind of likes her, and she stops seeing him, I'm assuming, as a therapist, but she starts dating him, and then they get married, and she so far has a really good life, but of course that goes sour. That something happens to their life and to him, and when she's haunted by the vision of someone known as the breakneck lady. And that's why she has the sleep paralysis. And she tries to help this one of her patients, this little girl who is haunted by someone she calls Mr. Smiley. And she's trying to help her because she feels a connection to this girl. And she's trying to figure out, so she tries to help her. And then meanwhile you have Luke, who is one of the twins, who is who is addicted to, I don't know if it's drugs or heroin or something. So he's in rehab and he's not doing very well, and he's dealing with the trauma of what he saw in that house and how his parents didn't believe him, and when he told them he saw something. And then we have something that he saw kind of reminded me of the Jangly Man from the movie adaptation of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And then we have Nell, like I said, she has the happiest life, and she ended up, oh crap, I'm sorry, I got Nell's story mixed up with Theo's story a little bit. Theo's the one that is a therapist. Nell is the one that, I don't know what she ends up doing, what her job is, but she gets married. She's the one that gets married, and something happens with the guy. So Theo does not get married. She's just kind of flirting around. So I kind of got their stories a little mixed up. So Nell is dealing, and Nell can't take it anymore and she's really falling apart in the story. And ends up killing herself, and they got to figure out why she did it. like what what the deal is and everything, and that kind of brings the family together. And then you have the dad who isn't really, something happened, the dad who couldn't deal with explaining to his children what happened. He kind of avoided, and he tried to tell the police, but the police wouldn't believe him. They think he might have killed his wife, and so he's dealing, that's his trauma. He can't talk to his kids, and his older son keeps telling him, our mom was mentally ill, and why won't you tell us? Why won't you admit that we had mental illness in the family? And he can't talk to his kids. They don't want to hear what he has to say, because especially Steve, who doesn't, when his dad thinks that something happened in the house, and the house has a malevolent spirit and it's evil, and he's like, no, we were all crazy. And which I get frustrated with Steve, because of course in these type of stories I'm more leaning towards the idea of the ghosts and stuff like that. Like, I mean, and my thing is, I want to know ahead of time if they're really, I get kind of frustrated sometimes because I don't want to be disappointed and it turned out that, oh no, they're crazy, and like, there's no ghost, it's all in your head. I don't like in stories when it's that, you go back and forth between that idea, and it turns out that, oh no, that, they're just crazy. Like, I prefer to find out that there is really supernatural going on. But then now something happened to the mom. We don't know what happened to the mom, but she's not there anymore. She, as far as we know, she died. And we don't know what happened to her story. And so the movie is set up, the show, it's not a movie, the show goes back and forth between the present day, where we're with them as the kids when they're adults and their dad's old now, and they're having remember, each episode focuses on one of the kids and them remembering the events and having to deal with the trauma of it, and trying to figure it all out, and trying to deal with their unrequited issues. It's a really cool show. And I heard that, like with American Horror Story, they're going to use they use the same cast in Bly Manor. They're just all in different roles. But yeah, I'm excited to watch Bly Manor next. But I decided, it was a good show to be watching at this time, now that it's almost autumn, like a good spooky ghost story type show. But anyway, so yeah, that's my non, or sort of non-book related thing, because it is inspired by a book. The first season anyway. So it won't matter if this doesn't work, because I'll refilm it again. I don't know if I'll refilm it or not. Or I might just wait until tomorrow if it doesn't work again. But so it won't matter what I'm saying right now, but but if you see this, then today or tonight or tomorrow, then it worked. But anyway, so I hope you're enjoying whatever you're reading. Have you seen that show, The Haunting of Hill House / Haunting of Bly Manor? Are you familiar with any of those books? Do you ever, or also, have you ever read a book by an author where there's controversy, but you kind of like the book, and, have you ever had that issue? I'd be kind of curious, because, I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, is it really all that worth it and everything, but again, this is your reading life. So I feel like we should be able to do what we want. And if you buy it used, I think that you can feel good about that. If you bought it used, then you didn't waste money on a book and give money to someone that's a really horrible person. But anyway, I'm gonna go, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.